The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Rishab. I'm a marketing associate here at Troubleshoot Solutions, part of Greater Group. And joining me is Thais, our software application specialist, who will be taking us through the best practices around join marker placement in MWF. For those of us who are new today, MWF is our flagship solution. It stands for Metal Wood Framer, and it's our Revit-based BIM framing software that automates and enhances the creation of walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses in light gauge steel and also in timber. I also wanted to introduce our newest tool for coordination and productivity. It's called FrameLab. It was just released in January this year, and the goal of the product is to identify and resolve issues around openings during the early phases of your projects, allowing you to save time, money, and avoid costly reworks. So I wanted to invite you to learn more about this product after the webinar ends. You can do so on our website, www.structsoffsolutions.com. And before we begin, please note that we will be taking live questions at the end of this webinar. If you have a question, you can raise your hand in the GoToWebinar dashboard so I can get to you. And please make sure that your mic is working correctly. You can also ask questions during the webinar by typing them into the questions tab of the webinar dashboard. And that is it for me. I hope you enjoy the webinar and find it informative. Thais, the floor is yours, and I'll just quickly share the screen with you. And you can go ahead.
Thank you, Rishab. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a nice week. So today we're going to talk about how we can apply join markers, a little bit about best practices, and we're also going to see how to create the auto join rule set. Okay, so I have here my model. I'm going to jump in my level 1, and we're going to focus in this portion here of my project, just to keep it simple and so we don't wait too much for the creation of the panels. So first things first, let's just take a look back at the basics about joints. So first thing is how we can manually apply joins here to our panels. So that would be the first method that you could use. Even though you're going to do this manually, it's not as automated like when we use the auto join rules. You could still use that for small projects. So the only thing that you have to do is identify your corners. You would mass select, let's say, for example, 90 degrees corner like that. And then you can just go ahead and click on joins and place join. So here we have all of the join definitions available. You can just pick the one that you think it fits best what you need for your project. So let's say this guy here, for example, and I'm going to click OK. So once I click OK, this is our marker. So we're going to see this little symbol here telling us that we do have a configuration here for the corner. So once we create these two panels, it's going to create with that configuration. We're not going to see the end studs overlapping anymore. And we can just go ahead and do this for the rest of the project. So that would be option number 1. So you're going to see that, for example, we're going to have the T intersection here, and MWF will identify the type of intersection and also how many wall types you have. For this exercise, I only have one wall type, but you could have different wall types, and that is not an issue. Depending on how many you have and how the corner looks like, you may see that the identification here when you select to place a join may change. So for example, for the T intersection that I have here is still just 2 walls intersection. So in that case, as you can see, it does identify as 2 walls, but it sees also that it is a T intersection instead of a regular 90 degrees corner like we did. So you would pick here from the list as well which one you think is best and hit OK. Okay, so so far that worked, but you're going to see that in some occasions in your project you may have some issues. For example, when we have a cross intersection like that, depending on how you model your walls, you're going to see that the join identification is not going to be as accurate as the other 2 guys that we saw here. for example, I have this big wall and it's going all the way through. So in theory, I do have 1, 2, 3 walls. And that's how it's going to recognize. Even though it's not exactly 3 walls, I do have a cross intersection. So in that case, if I just mass select and hit place join again, you're going to see it's recognizing it as a 3 walls intersection. However, it's disregarding the fact that I do have walls here at the bottom as well. So in that case, if you use this, it's not going to work. You do have one option here that you could use. This guy here, the main wall will be a continuous one. So that's exactly what's happening here. But it's not going to work in all occasions. Okay, so you do have to be careful when using this guy. If you have a long wall with several smaller walls intersecting with it, at some point it may not work. Okay, so again, even though we want it to be as automated as possible, you're still going to have to take a look at the project and see when you could use this and then when you would have to apply another solution. Okay, so let's say in case you do need to apply another solution, and that comes the best practices that I was talking about. We do have to keep in mind that all of this work needs to be done before we apply the joins. So if you are starting the project from scratch, that's great because you can model the walls accordingly. If you already have the project, you have the architectural project and you're just framing it, you're going to have to take a look and you may have to fix some walls, especially because whoever is drawing this just for architectural purposes is not going to always know that you're going to apply some join markers there. So you have a specific way that you can draw your walls to take advantage of the join markers. Okay, so we have some options here. The first option would be to just manually move this back. So what we want here is actually to create separate walls. But as we know with Revit, it's always going to try to keep things joined. So if you try to draw a wall here again, you're going to see that it joins the wall as well. So it becomes one again. And we're going to have, again, the same issue. Let me do a Control-Z here. And just like, for example, in this corner here, this is even a bigger issue because in this case, we have 2 walls only. That one is also not separate. So if I mass select this guy and I go here to place join, it's also going to identify this as 2 walls and it's not gonna work out as well. Okay, so let's just drag this back like this. And one thing that you could do is let's just create similar. And you could just create this portion here as a little bit off the center. And you can align this afterwards. So once you do that, you're going to see that it keeps the walls separate. It doesn't join them together. The other thing that you could do is maybe copy paste. So when you do that, it keeps it separate. So it's not going to turn this into a whole wall again. So that would be one option. And once you do that, you're going to see in this corner here, this cross intersection here, I can see that now I have 4 separate walls. And this is especially true if I am using the same wall type. Again, if you do have different wall types, it will already identify that you have 4 walls. But when it's the same wall type, it's a little tricky. So now that we were able to separate them, once you select them again and hit place join, you're going to see that now it's going to identify as being a 4-wall intersection. So now you can actually pick one here from the list and hit OK. And you can go ahead and add that to your panel. Okay, so that would be one thing that we would need to do before going ahead and placing our joints. Oops. The other thing is also, for example, this wall here. You're going to see that also depending on how the project is modeled, if, for example, you go ahead and place joins in all of these walls, but you forget to place a join here, for example, some of the panels may not create, and that is because it's missing one corner condition here. You're gonna have some of the joints here in relation with this wall, but here at the corner at the end of the wall, you're not gonna get any joints, and that could cause some issues as well. Okay, so in this case, the other thing that you could do is also disallow join. Every time we disallow it, so let me come here to this simple corner. So let's say right now, if I click in the little blue dot with my, if I do a right click, I'm gonna see that I have this option here. It's a Revit option to disallow join. What this will do is it will just disallow and detach my wall from the other wall. Okay, so by default, Revit will always attach the walls together, but you do have this option to disallow join and then detach them. So in that case, you can just drag it back. You can maybe stop it here. Sorry, let me disallow again. Okay, so let me drag it back here. And when you look at it, you're gonna see that it's separate. So that way you know that it's not joined. It is disjoined, and you can just go ahead and create two separate panels here. And the end studs, the end stud of this panel here, the vertical one, will not intersect with the other panel. So that could be one option too. Sometimes we want to use the joins, but depending on the circumstances, let's say, for example, you don't want to, you do want the stud spacing in this panel. Let's say this is the main panel, and you do want to keep the stud spacing. In that case, maybe adding a join here may not be so interesting because you are going to get another elements here that are part of the join configuration. So in that case, if you just disallow and drag it back and you frame it as two separate walls, it may be what you are trying to achieve. So it's going to depend on what you need. Sometimes in the same project, you're going to have circumstances where you're not going to apply a join. You're just going to disallow and disjoin the walls. And in other places, you will use the joins. Okay, so you can choose whatever you think is best for your workflow and for your specific project. So for example, we could do this here as well. As you can see, we have a big wall. Again, the same issue will happen here. If I just mass select this cross intersection and I go here to place a join, it's just looking at, it is one issue is that it's considering an intersection of two walls. And the second issue is that when I look at the preview, it's actually a T intersection. So one way to solve this is going to be the same. We're going to just drag this back, or you could either just hit delete here and just create another wall again. So let's say we're going to create one here. So this portion would be joined, okay? And we can just create a rule here for this T intersection. We can add a join here. And then we would create another wall here. Oh, actually, let me start here from the bottom. Let me disallow join and drag it here. Okay, so it could stop here. So that way, this wall, it's not joined with this one, with my where I have my panel 289. So in that case, once I mass select everything to apply my auto join rule set, it will frame this T intersection. I will get a join marker here for this guy, but for this wall, it would just be penalized separately. So I'm not gonna get any join markers for this one. So that could be one option too. You can have a combination of these. It's gonna, again, depend on what you think is best. So I'm just going to delete the panels, and we're going to talk about how we can create our auto join rule sets. So again, first thing to do would be to just manually modify your project, rearrange your walls if you need, redraw the walls if you need. After everything is all set, you can go ahead and start creating your auto join rule sets. It's going to be located here on Marker Manager. Last tab, and it's going to be here on panels auto join. So on your end, you're gonna see a default one. You do want to duplicate the default one. Let's say this guy will be named panels auto join webinar. Click OK. So if I double click on it, it's empty. I still don't have any rules. And we don't want to create rules here. This is just where it's going to be saved, just for your reference. But we are actually going to start creating the rules in the project itself. And again, you can go ahead, just like when we do in the templates, you can just go to the side, identify the corner types that you have and recreate them, just so you don't do that in the project itself. But here, because it's just an exercise, it's a very simple project, I'm gonna go ahead, and the first corner that I do identify here is my 90 degrees corner. So the process will be very similar once we just manually add the join, but this time we are creating the rule. We're not adding the joins just yet. So I select this corner. I come here to joins, and I'm going to click on create auto join rule. Again, this is all good. Always check if the corner is okay. It is 2 walls, that's good. And then I have my options here. Let's say I select this one and hit OK. So this is where we would select the rule set. The one that we have just created is this one. I'm gonna hit select. And here we're gonna see how host 1 and host 2. So these are the walls, basically. Host 1 will be the main wall, host 2 will be the secondary wall. The order that the main wall will be chosen will be from the join heuristics that is going to be here under settings. So from that join heuristics, we know that one of the walls will be the main one. If I'm not mistaken, by default, if you don't change the join heuristics, the shortest wall will be the main one, and then the largest one will be the secondary. So if you do want to change the order and say that your longest wall will be always the main one, you can change the join heuristics. The other location that you could change it is the under joins. You can select the option to set main wall, and you can rotate the join marker to have the other one being the main one. Okay. So just to explain that these guys are actually the walls. And what it's saying to us here is that it also identifies the wall type. So if I just leave it as it is, I am creating a rule specifically for when I have this type of corner condition. But when I have a 5.5 inches wall meeting a 5.5 inches wall. So if I have the same wall, corner condition, but with different wall types, it's not going to recognize and it's not going to place any joints because I don't have a rule for it. So you could be very specific. You can create different rules for the same corner type, but with different wall types intersecting. Or you could be a little bit more generic, and you can come here to the little house. This is where you would set up the wall types. And if you select the blank space here, you're telling the software that you don't really care about the wall type. As long as we have this corner condition happening, it will place the join. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same for my host number 2. So right now what I'm saying is that that specific join marker that we selected will be placed to that corner, 90 degrees corner condition, regardless of the wall type that I have. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click OK here. We've created the first rule. As you can see, we still don't have anything. We're just creating the rules. We also have the T intersection. So don't pick the ones that are disallowed. Okay, the ones that are not joined are not gonna have any markers. So it's either one or the other. You cannot use the join markers when the walls are separate like that. Okay, so we're gonna leave this one. Let's see this guy here. If we select this corner, it should identify this as being a T intersection. So let's say we're gonna use this condition here, this definition for the T intersection. I'm gonna hit OK. Oh, sorry. I actually clicked in the regular place join. We do want to come here to create auto join rule. So let's say this one. We're going to select this condition and hit OK. Again, we need to pick the rule set, hit select, and again, we're going to say that we do want to apply this join definition every time that we have a intersection. Does not matter the wall type. So let's hit OK. Okay, so what other condition we have? We do have this guy here, the cross intersection. So we're gonna go again to create auto join rule. Oops. Let me just delete this guy. But actually, okay, let me delete this one. As you can see, it did identify as being 3. So if we want to create a rule set, a rule for that kind of situation, we do need to also redraw that other wall that we saw. Okay. So let me go ahead here and create like that. And we can do exactly the same. I'm just going to draw it a little bit off, and then I'm going to go ahead and align it. Okay. So now they are all separate. And I can come here to joins, create auto join rule. So now it does identify this as being 4 walls. Let's hit OK here. Panels auto join rule, we're just picking the rule set. So the process will be pretty much always the same. And you're going to do that at least once for each corner condition that you have in the project. So again, I'm just going to remove the wall types. So let me just select the blank space here. Okay, and for my host number 4. Okay, and hit OK. Okay, let me see what happened here. Let me try this again. Create auto join. There it is, hit OK. So if you do already have a rule for that, for the same corner condition, it's going to ask you if you want to override. Let's say yes. Because I think what happened was maybe I did not update one of the hosts. Host 3. Okay, here host 4. Okay, let's hit OK. Okay, let's see what that warning is about. And for this one, let me see here. Create auto join rule. We can try this one here that I mentioned. Okay. Panel auto joins, hit select. And again, I'm just going to remove the wall types. Okay. And hit OK. So for this one, it's the same one that the same one as the one that we did here for the T intersection. So this should be good. And I think that is it. So we can go ahead and mass select everything. And what we can do first, we can either create the panels or place the joins. Usually it's faster to place the joins first and then create the panels. So we're going to go here to joins, and we're going to go ahead and click on the auto join option. And this is where you would pick up the rule set that we want to use. So we're going to use the third one here, panels auto join webinar, and hit select. And if we didn't create any rules for a specific condition, it will throw you an error. It didn't here, but let's say if I forget to create a rule set, a specific rule for the cross-section intersection here that we have, we would see an error warning telling us that it couldn't find any rules for that location. And that's fine. If you see that warning, don't worry about that. Usually it's just going to place all the other ones, and you can check what corner does not have the join marker. So that would be the corner that you need to create a rule for it, okay? So as you can see, it does place the markers, and as I mentioned before, the join heuristics will be what it will be looking at when it comes to deciding which one is the main wall. So right now here, for example, for this corner, this is the main wall. So that's why the arrow is pointing in that direction. And if you want to change that and rotate it to make this wall be the main wall, as I mentioned, what you can do is just select the marker and come here to joins and set main wall. So that will allow you to click and select this wall here, for example, and make the marker rotate. So after this is done, let me just see if I have a template map. Okay, so I think I don't have it for the wall type that we're using. So let me just go ahead here. I think it's this one, and hit OK. So now we can just go ahead and hit Quick Create. And then it's just going to create our panels. Again, it is a good idea to place and to run auto joins before, and then after you can quick create it. I would say it doesn't take that long. If you do the other way around, it's going to take a little bit of time to regenerate the panels. And we are going to see that it's going to follow exactly what we've requested when it comes to the rule sets, and the wall that is not joined will not get any join markers. Oops. So as you can see, it does frame everything together. If you again want to change the order here of your elements, you can just move this. You can set the main wall again to be maybe this one. So let's say, let me see, one is a good, let's try this one. So if I select this guy and I come here to joins, set main wall, and let's say I'm going to select this one. So it's going to automatically regenerate. You're going to see that the arrow will rotate, and all the join elements will rotate as well. But as you can see, sometimes when I do this, depending on the configuration here that I have, I may have some issues like that. And that's also one situation where you may have to cut the walls like we did here, in case that happens. You would cut this one and make a separate one here in case you have a situation like that. Okay? But this is pretty common, and it could happen because of that, because of how the joins are, the orientation of the joins, and how you draw your walls. Okay, so I think that is it. Let's just go back to Hisham and see if we have any questions.
Thank you for the demonstration, Thais. And indeed, we will be opening the floor for your questions. We already have a question that was sent in by Jorge. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. But the question is, corner markers, is there a way to have all the studs to be the same family type?
Okay, so they are only going to be the same family type if you set this up in the template. So for example, if you have one template here that it's you have 8 inches elements, studs, and then in this one, the other wall, you have a template that you have 6 inches studs, for example, there's no way for you to control and say that, oh, all of these members here from the corner will be just one family. Usually what is going to happen is, as you can see here, the members that are related to the vertical panel that we see here, so panel 294, they will be following, so these two in this case, they will be following whatever template you have in that panel. And then this guy here will be from my panel 292, and it will be following the families I have in that specific panel. So let's say, for example, if you want the 3 elements, the 3 studs here to be the same family, what you would have to do is actually have the whole panel being the same family, both of them, just like it is right now. But to change only these guys, I don't think it's possible. I think you could try with extra studs in properties, but honestly, what I think is going to happen is the marker will override the change. So I don't think it will work. Okay, I can test it out if you want, and I'll let you know if it works, but I think it does not work because usually the markers will always override the settings, any manual edits.
All right. And the second question is by Luis. And for the training that is offered, do we see these topics in the trainings?
Yes, we do. We go over the joins. We pretty much see all of this. So yeah, we do go over in the training.
Perfect. There's another question again by Luis. Can we make a join where the secondary wall connects to the primary wall, but with gypsum board or steel board and so on and so forth?
Yes. So if you're gonna have sheathing or gypsum boards, you're probably gonna be using the multi-layer option. The way that I've created so far, we're just using what we call standard panels. So we're just focusing on the structural layer. If you do have gypsum as well, you could create the panels using the multi-layer option, which will automatically also create the gypsum. The process will be exactly the same. If you could still just use the joins for the structural layer, and then we have this separate one here only for sheathing. Okay, so you could use that. Yes. The other thing that you can also do is, like I mentioned, okay, let me draw here on the side. But the other thing that you could do is just manually disallow the corners. So in that case, you may have a little bit more control depending on what you need to achieve with the sheathing or gypsum. But if I come here and I say disallow join for both of them, I can just drag them anywhere, and I can even make this stop before the sheathing if you want that type of situation, or I can make it go all the way in. So it will depend on what you need. But overall, if you want to use the join markers, it's going to work with the sheathing as well. It will automatically cut before you go in the structural layer.
All right, and we have another question. Can I create my custom joint marker if it is not available?
So we do have an option. It's going to be here, create, well, we have 2 options actually. You can either create new join type. I don't recommend this one because it's very complicated. Even for us, it's not very user-friendly. You also have this one, place join with preview. I think that one is much better. So let me just show you here. Create similar, just going to create a simple corner. Joins and place join with preview. So in this one, you could just select the join marker that you think it fits best, or maybe you could even select a simple one. And what you could do from here is just duplicate this type. You can either edit the existing one, or you could duplicate and create a new type. Okay, so you can give a name here. And this, how you see it, doesn't really matter actually. You can just change it here. So let's say like this, so it looks a little bit better. But this is just for you to visualize. It doesn't matter the size here that you select. It's always going to follow whatever you have in the templates. So from here, you can go ahead and, let's say, move existing members. You can create new ones. So let's say, for example, if I want to move and create a new member, I would click on copy and then move, and I will highlight the member that I want to add that operation to. So let's say this one. So it's going to open up the running offset. Let's say if I add 3, Sometimes it will go to the right, sometimes to the left. So if you set up a negative value, it will go the opposite direction. And there it is. So I've created a new member. I can also rotate and delete from here. If I just move it without copying it, I would just be moving the original member. So from here, I can create several different types. So you could use this one. The other option is we can also take a look at it depending on what you need. We do have a library. So we don't have all of the types that we have available here because it would be too much and too heavy, but we do have other ones in our library. So if you need something specific, you can always send an email on support and we can take a look for you if we have that specific configuration. Okay?
Sounds good. The next question that we have is from Nick. It's kind of a long text question. So if you prefer, I can just unmute Nick, or Thais, you can just read along with the question. I think it'll be better if we do that. So
okay.
I'll just unmute Nick. We'll see if he asks a question. Otherwise, you can just read it.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I've been using auto joins for a while, and sometimes what I run into is this, say this condition right here where I have a two wall intersection that's at a 90. I'll have a third wall that comes in, say parallel to one of these two walls, that is disallow join.
Okay.
So it's coming into this intersection, and sometimes when I run auto joins, it gives me an error saying that it can't find a rule because it's looking at all three walls, and basically it doesn't seem like it's taking into account the disallow join of the third wall.
I see.
So
if
so if you take so if you take that the wall you're drawing, but draw it coming into that same corner.
so you mean more or less like this?
Yes, but aligned with the east-west wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're aligned, but it's pulled back and disallowed join.
Okay, so you do have this, but one of them are not joined, right?
Yes. Yeah, so I pull that, but yeah, do disallow join and I pull it back to the face of the other wall.
Oh, okay.
So I'll run auto, so I have like a two wall auto join rule set up, but it'll give me an error at this condition because it's viewing it as three walls.
I see. It shouldn't be doing that. Let me try on my end and see what happens. So let's go auto join. And then let's create the panels. It's okay. So it looks okay, but maybe something happened because sometimes they join again for some reason. Like for example, mine if I'm not mistaken, I did disallow this one and it joined again. So sometimes maybe that's it. But if you want, you can send us. I don't know if you still have the project, but if you have the file, you can send us and I can take a look at it to see exactly what the issue is. It could be also something like that. Maybe a joint got rotated by accident, or maybe something got regenerated and then it's not working anymore. Could be that too. But it is a common error that I see. It's usually when we think that it's disjoint, but it's really not, or depending on the order that we added the joints. For example, when we have two joints in both sides of the wall. But to be 100% sure, I think if you could send us the project on the support email, I can take a look at it. Okay?
Okay, I'll try to see if I can recreate that.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
And one other quick question, when you said for the main wall, you said it defaults to the longest wall, correct?
I think that by default is the shortest wall, actually. Let me see here. So if we come here to project join heuristics, so yeah, as you can see here, the second one is the shortest wall. So by default, the shortest wall will be the main wall. But we can change the order here. You can duplicate the existing join heuristics. And once you do that, let's say if you drag this up, let's say longest wall, then this one will be the main one always.
Okay.
Okay, you just have to be careful in case you are using a customized join heuristic. Just make sure that everyone else that is working on the same project to have the same one. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we have one more question from Agdas. I believe it's best if I unmute you, Agdas, and you can have a live interaction with Thais. So you can go ahead.
Hi, Thais. So
Hi.
I was trying to place an intersection join in my project with place join with preview option because the join type that I was looking for wasn't there in the options.
Okay.
So when I go in place join with preview, it gives me an error and it doesn't show me the studs involved because if I can't see anything, I can't edit it. It says column has invalid constraints. Do you know
Okay.
anything about the error?
I would have to take a look exactly. So if you want, we can set up a call later because I would have to see exactly what type of condition you're trying to create.
It's just an intersection wall, two perpendicular intersecting walls.
So it's like that, for example?
Yeah, just not extending it to downwards, just stop it on the horizontal wall. Yeah.
Oops. So it's just something like that?
Yeah, and I want to place a join here with preview, place join with preview option.
Okay. So it's
Yeah, so you can, when I select anything here, it gives me that option, that error.
oh, so it gives you right away. Okay.
Yeah, it gives me error column has invalid constraints, and I can tell you the error number if you want, but I can't see anything in my preview, so I can't edit it.
Okay, so in that case, I think the best thing to do would be if you could write an email to support, but it could be the build number that you're at. I don't know, do you know the build number?
I can check here, just a minute. It's 7674.
Okay, 7674. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, I think we didn't have any issues in that build, but we do have a new one. So what you could try is maybe install the newest one, or if you prefer, you can send me an email through support and I can take a look. It could be something specific to your project. So again, we may have to take a look at your file.
I tried in a new file as well. I was getting the same error, and I have been using MWF since a while now. So in previously, like in previous versions, I never faced this issue, but only on this project.
Oh, okay. So maybe it could be an issue with the build. So maybe it could be a good idea if you install the new one and test it in a testing file to see if you still get the same error. If yes, you can call us and we can set up a meeting so we can take a look at that. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we'll just wait a couple more seconds to see if we have any other questions. All right, that looks like a wrap for today. If there are any questions about this presentation after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording tomorrow via email. If you would like to have a one-on-one demonstration with one of our product experts or technical team, we'll be happy to set that up for you as well. And we'll now end the webinar. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you, Thais, for the presentation. We hope you have a great day today.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.